Hello, everybody. This is Colin Ortmeyer with Kilo Terra Land Company. I'm joined by Chris Janis, our East Central Iowa land specialist. And today we wanted to hop on here quick and talk a little bit about the market and what we're kind of seeing here as we go into the fall and winter months. Very busy time for farmland producers, as many of them are out in the fields right now, combining soybeans and corn. So we just kind of want to give a quick update, kind of what we've been seeing, just what we might see here in the foreseeable future. So, like I said, we have Chris Janis with us today from our East Central location. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself here?
Sure. I'm Chris Janis. Like Colin said, I'm out here in Johnson County, and I pretty much cover East Central, Southeast Iowa for our team. All the way down to Lee County, as far southwest as in that Appanoose area, coming back up to the Iowa Benton County area, and then I can go as far east or northeast as the need requires, but I typically stay around the Cedar, Muscatine County area, so in that little strip right there. So that's pretty much my area coverage right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, kind of the first thing we kind of wanted to dive into here, and we just got a release last week, actually on October 5th. The Realtor Land Institute Iowa chapter just came out with their September land value and trend survey, and some pretty interesting data here as we looked into here now in September than what we had here in March. So, what kind of did you take away from it, Chris?
Sure. So I know for out here, as far as the dollar amounts, those are pretty variable, right? Depending on how you're tracking each piece, but they're pretty consistent in where we see the growth and drop rates at. So for those that don't know, we use Realtor Land Institute and the Iowa State Ag Extension is kind of where we get our higher level expertise on different market rates and value of land and such, depending on the trends that we've been seeing from the past. So um, overall, in the east and southeast, we've seen very slight increase overall, about 0.5% overall on land. But what that means is that depending on the quality of ag land, recreational property of sorts, what we're seeing is that in the low quality area, we've seen a dip in the overall value and prices there. But everything else has been some small incremental changes for the increase. And so there's a lot of people out there that are thinking, hey, the interest rates are high, prices are going to drop. Well, for sellers, it's still a good time to sell. The prices are staying strong right now, and like I said, they're increasing ever so much, right? So the thing is that we have seen is the volume has gone down significantly from 2021 and 2022, and overall acres sold across the state and specifically in my region. So what that means is that there's still a lot of cash on the table, surprisingly, from COVID and people taking out triple P loans and just from previous land transactions. 1031 exchanges are going pretty strong still. So those are still putting a lot of cash in hand for folks, and they still have the power to buy at these high prices. So only time will tell what that market's going to do. But right now, overall prices are remaining pretty consistent. Just the overall volume is down a little bit.
No, and that's a pretty good point. And I was actually going to ask you is, I guess with some of the clients that I've been working with, as far as, investors and clients that are looking into more, income producing acres, it seems like they've been a lot more conservative over the last year. I've even talked to some that, have potentially looked into putting their cash into, CDs rather than farmland as more of a short term, um, return on something like that. I guess, have you seen any dip as far as, people may going to, investing in that part of their portfolio rather than, the farmland market at all?
In the farmland, in most cases, yes. Transitional land, we're still seeing really good interest from investors in that area just because naturally the ROIs are pretty high in growth. In my area, with the Iowa City, Cedar Rapids footprints, they have planning and development growth maps for their city corporations. And those properties that lie in those fringe areas, if you will, or in the future planning for residential development or commercial, those pieces of property hold a lot of value. And that's kind of an area that we're trying to help people around here with, is understanding, do I or do I not kind of fall into that category in those growth maps. So investors are still definitely interested in land like that, just because the return rate on that is so high. I can't say exactly where they're turning around and investing money, but when you see CDs at, in the 5% range, that's typically better than an ROI on a cash rent property. So we do see some of the investors moving away ever so slightly again from the agricultural side of things. Although commodity prices, the market for beans and corn and stuff are still pretty strong right now. Operational costs are through the roof for our farmers. So what they're able to afford for cash rent and stuff is kind of, even though the prices for the market are going higher, they're only able to afford pretty consistent rates in the cash rent categories, or the different if you guys want to do a co-op or something like that with the landowner. So they can only afford so much with the upfront prices for themselves.
For sure. Yeah, and I guess another thing, just looking at this RLI survey, it seems like there might be a little bit of difference between the farmland and the recreational property. What are you kind of seeing as far as the difference in some of those different properties?
What do you mean the differences? Can you clarify?
Yeah, just as far as are you seeing an uptick in recreational properties as far as buying power? Are you seeing a recreation starting to be what's the right soften a little bit more?
Right.
Are you seeing farmland starting to soften?
Yeah, I got you. So farmland is again, it's not selling as strong as 21, 22. However, auctions are still going pretty strong. Even traditional listings for some of these things are pretty farm properties are pretty strong. So we're not seeing too many that are priced right that are sitting very long on the market. So now traditionally November is typically a big sale month in the ag side. So I would expect to see a lot of those get cleaned up here in the next month and a half or so, as tax season kind of approaches. However, on the rec side of things, um, when you're looking at the overall acres sold in this region, the rec round has gone significantly down. Now, there has been, for those that are, kind of pay attention to the market and what's for sale and stuff, especially in the Southeast, there's been several really big tracts, well-known properties that have sold recently, or at least are under contract. So those larger tracts, 200 plus acre pieces, 2 to 1,500 acres, those are still selling when they come out if priced properly, especially ones that have good harvest history, a little bit of ROI or on the property, whether that be through CRP or cash rent, and some buildings and such on there. But overall, for the recreational category, those less than 200 acres, a lot of them have been sitting on the market for a long time. And the reason is typically your buyer pool that's able to afford that, and looking at those type of properties, when you're putting pen to paper and looking at dollar amount, like you kind of mentioned, those interest rates being over 7% right now, most of your recreational buyers in that less than 200 category, most of them are still needing to finance, and they're able to afford almost half of what they could, as opposed to last year's interest rates, right? So your buyer pool has gone down significantly on those smaller tracks. Again, there's still a lot of cash buyers out there that are looking at pieces like that. But even them, I mean, as far as affordability, they're still hanging out around that 100-acre range is what most of those, I guess, blue collar average guys like you and I are able to afford. They're looking at those 100-acre pieces right now, right? Or in that 100 to 200 acres. So recreational transactions have gone down quite a bit in this whole region. So
Yeah, and it's a good point you brought up about, it seems like we have seen, a lot of bigger type recreational farms, continuous tracks come up within the last few months. And, I don't know if that's just, these folks trying to figure out, a transition period of what might happen in the market and taking advantage of what these values are still holding or what have you. So, it's really interesting, I guess, to see, some of these larger tracks, but as you could probably accommodate, we're still, I would say, a lack of inventory overall of farms. I don't know. Could you attest to that?
I don't know. I think the inventory is there for the places it needs to be there in most cases, especially when you're talking about recreational properties. It's just a matter of what people are willing to spend and able to afford, right? You know, Market shot through the roof the last 2 years. So when you're looking at comparable sales in the area, which are still not as much, still selling in certain ranges, other people are turning around and saying, well, with interest rates so high, I should only be able to buy at this level. Well, at the end of the day, the seller still has, they still have the product, and you have the demand. So as long as people are still buying at those prices, it's going to remain high. So I'm not a economic guy. I look at trends. I don't try to predict the future. Who knows what's going to happen, especially what's happening just happened recently in Israel and stuff. Never know what's happening in the world, but that affects the economy. So I think there's a pretty good selection out there. It's just a matter of, I guess, understanding the needs versus wants in a property. And when I'm talking to my buyer clients, the big thing I always talk about is the difference between value and price. Land is consistently year after year a very conservative investment when you're looking at it from an aspect or asset perspective. So even if you're buying at prices that may seem high and not always agreeable compared to what they were 4 or 5 years ago. 5, 10 years from now, you're still making a pretty high increase on your return if you need to sell that. Obviously, in most cases, people who bought in 2020 and turned around are trying to flip in 22, 23. I mean, obviously they had good timing for themselves, but people that are buying last year and this year, you're not going to be able to do a 2 year turnaround. You're probably going to have to look at a 5, 10 year wait period if that's what you're looking to do. But those folks are the power's still in the land and it's around. So I guess ultimately there is still quite a bit of options out there. If you can afford it, buy it. You hear it from every podcast, you hear it from every land specialist, you hear it for every landowner. They always say I should have bought when I thought prices were high because now it's through the roof. I mean, what we're seeing that's $5,000 and $6,000 an acre today, 10, 20 years from now, that might be $15,000 an acre when you're looking at trends. It is, for the rec ground, it is Iowa, premium whitetail land in a lot of areas. And then you turn around and look at the ag side. I mean, just, our dirt is, it's top notch when you're looking at the rest of the nation as far as export stuff. So it's hard to compete with those land with what we offer here in Iowa and land, and then the prices compared to everywhere else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've had a lot of conversation with my clients as well. And that's a conversation we've had every time is, you wish you coulda, woulda, especially if the neighbor property comes up, so, they wish they would have bought it back when it was, $2,500 an acre and they thought that was a lot, and now it's, $5,000, $6,000 an acre. And, so, I think, going forward, I think it's just always, if you can, if it makes sense to make it work, but obviously, it's got to make sense on the overall, farming operation or whatever operation what you have. So, but yeah, I guess the next kind of point we wanted to kind of go into, and it seems like here in central Iowa, we're off to a very fast start for harvest here. I've talked to many producers actually, and quite a few of them already finishing up on soybean harvest and getting into corn harvest. So I've heard anywhere from 9% moisture to all the way down to 7% moisture. So obviously we got a little bit of rain here this past week and more on the way here the end of the week. So I'm sure it'll slow down harvest a little bit, but I guess I was down in southern Iowa here last couple of days, and it seems like they were a little bit farther not I guess not as far along as what we are up here in central Iowa. So I don't know if that can attest to were a little bit wetter down there or what have you. So I guess what are you kind of seeing out there, east central, eastern part of the state out there?
Yeah, so in my area, I kind of, when you look at those different drought levels from the USDA and whatnot, my area cover, I up all the way up in like Lynn County, you got exceptional drought conditions down to extreme, and then down to moderate drought conditions in the southeast, right? So the harvest varies between those counties, but as I was driving around the last couple of days, I mean, even this morning when I was out and about, beans are there's not many beans left on the ground in east central Iowa. Down in southeast, there's a little bit more and less, but what I have noticed is there's been a lot more corn picked in southeast region as opposed to east central, to whereas corn is just kind of getting started, if not kind of waiting still right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a lot of harvesting going on today. I saw a lot of tractors firing up this morning, probably trying to beat this wet weather that's coming in because it doesn't look like till I would say probably Monday or so from what the weather forecast looks like will be probably depending on how fast it dries out or whatnot, when those guys will be able to start getting in their fields and getting to work. So bean is definitely ahead of schedule. Corn looks like it's in East Central is getting ready to get to that point over the next week or two, and then it's kind of slowly on its way down in Southeast Iowa right now. So definitely earlier than normal for sure.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of what the overall word is what I've been hearing is it's definitely, a lot farther along than what it is previous years. I guess I haven't had to take a look. The Iowa Department of Agriculture comes out with a report every Monday, I believe, of just kind of the percent as far as soybean harvest and corn harvest. And I haven't taken a look yet this week, but I know last week they were definitely ahead of schedule compared to last year and previous year. So hopefully, weather depending, everybody will get their crops out in a timely manner. But I guess that can kind of attest to a next point kind of like to take a hit on, and this kind of goes back to some of the land values as well, and just what we're kind of seeing in these commodity prices and whatnot. And I did see that commodity part the futures anyways have started to slip a little bit as far as corn and soybeans and whatnot. So will that be a big factor in farmland prices? Very well could be, especially like what you kind of talked about as far as input cost, starting to be through the roof. If we even get those commodity prices to slip a little bit, I could suspect that the farmland values would follow that as well. I guess what could you kind of take away from that?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about before, I 100% agree. I mean, the farmer they have to make some sort of profit to take care of themselves, right? And as long as input's high, although commodity prices are still at a pretty decent rate right now, when they're paying the prices they're paying for fertilizer, fuel, things of that nature, I mean, it's crushing their affordability of what they can cash rent out and what their purchasing power is to buy more land at the end when they're looking at their overall annual profits of how they're going to expand operations in the following year. There's still operational maintenance with their tractors and bins and stuff that they have to maintain. So yeah, I mean it's definitely the economy is definitely affecting our farmers, which ultimately affects what they're able to do in the real estate. So we've got elections coming up again. The world's a crazy place, so only time will tell over the next year or two how that balances back out for us. But I can't. Again, we're not economists. We're not policy strategists or anything like that. So we just kind of look at the trends and look at the potential effects and stuff. I mean, I would imagine that most guys in the beginning of 2020 weren't sitting there being, thinking, man, we're going to watch interest rates plummet and real estate skyrocket over the next year. That's a hard prediction, So we just look at those trends and say what could potentially happen and what the current market's doing right now and make suggestions and be the best advisors we can to our clients and just keep them aware of what's happening on them to help them maybe come to the conclusion of why prices are staying strong or coming down as they're going into into whether that is as a seller or a buyer.
No, absolutely. And that's a really good point too. We always try to say to ourselves, we need to stay in our own lane. So we, like you said, we are just advisors, we're not, economists by any means, but, we do keep a track of kind of what's going on in the world. And really that just, it affects everything of kind of what's going on. So, what have you been kind of seeing, or what have you been hearing from the current farm bill status? I know we're kind of trending that maybe something was going to come out here in September. I haven't heard as of recently anything that I know of. What have you kind of heard?
Well, surprise, surprise for anybody that actually listens to this that doesn't know, but our politicians can't get their stuff together and figure stuff out for the American population again. But I mean that whole, jokingly, light spirited, because there is a lot of guys, guys and gals, politicians that are out there that are doing great things for their constituents, right? But ultimately, Congress didn't get together again. So there's been a delay, a 45-day, funding to keep the government operational. What does that mean for the farm bill? That means at the earliest, we'll see a new farm bills December, maybe early 2024, depending on how November goes when they get a new Speaker of the House in there and figure their stuff out, especially with Israel. I mean, there's a lot of confusion there. But what that means for the farm bill ultimately is that they'll have to revert back to the previous, even though it's expired. So I would definitely recommend speaking with your county USDA offices when you're looking at the different programs you're trying to implement, because they're going to get the most up-to-date information on how it's applicable for funding for the different programs available in your area. So, I'm not 100% sure on how that's going to work. It just, as per usual, we're going to get delayed on that farm bill, it's been pretty anticipated for guys like us because, seeing those new CRP rates in our area, which is probably the most common program that we see used, right? Especially for our recreational guys that are looking for some sort of return on, a dynamite hunting property, right? It's kind of hard to tell them. I can tell them what the rates are right now and what they have been. But, I think it's going to be kind of quick, fast-paced moving when those numbers fly down. So it'll definitely be important for you as a landowner or looking to buy in certain areas, talking to those local USDA, NRCS officials to kind of see what they're hearing in their moments. Like I said, I would imagine that they'll get the information well before us that's applicable to their areas.
No, absolutely. So we'll try to keep you guys updated on some of those status, and like we always try to keep everybody updated, kind of what we're seeing as well in the land market. You can reach out to any of us, myself, Chris. We have a numerous other agents throughout the state and as well in Missouri. So we're going to try and keep you guys updated every week. You might see myself, you might see Chris again, you might see some of our other guys. We might even bring in a few people, as far as some other folks, a mortgage company, other landowners that be willing to kind of share their thoughts on some of these different topics as well. So appreciate you guys joining us, and be sure to check back on the next episode of this. So
We got to let them know this is the first episode. So when we're starting off in Iowa, right? Like Jake Hofer's got a great one, the Land Podcast in Illinois, right? But we're trying to do something like that here in Iowa. So this is it. When Kilo Terra becomes national account, and everybody's coming to us for all their land expertise and decision making, advising, and whatnot. Hey, we're going to be the first two faces that are on there and be like, hey, we started this podcast up and cracked some smiles and kept everybody up to date on the real estate market for our specific areas, man.
So how do you want me to close this out? Just or
Oh,
maybe
dude, I was just saying, like, that's part of the show, right? Is like, hey, this is episode 1, man. So it only gets better or it gets canceled next year.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I don't know, but I don't know what you got. You got hunting plans coming up?
Hunting wise, I was actually out yesterday and was able to get out some cameras and whatnot. I've been behind the 8 ball really bad this year. So was able to get out some cameras and actually a couple stands as well. So checked up on a lease. He's just getting done with soybeans and left us a few beans for late season, and they looked awesome. So need to get a blind up there. and just kind of waiting on one to kind of show up as of right now. But it looks like we got a front coming in this week, and it should be game on as far as people always say the October lull, but I think if you're a bow hunter in the Midwest, I think the next few days after this front that pushes through, you better be in a tree because it could get really western in a minute. So,
Yeah,
how about yourself?
man, I'll tell you, I know I've told you this, Colin, but this is going to be my first hunting season as an adult that I get to hunt when it makes sense. So like when I hear this front coming in, I'm like, I get to hunt that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Obviously, clients come first,
Yeah.
but in lieu of, if I don't have anything on the schedule, I'm going hunting. I'm obviously prioritizing family and everything else, but I'm excited for that. One of the deer I was targeting, I won't bring up the gentleman's name because I don't know if he wants to put stuff out there or if anybody even listens to this. Who knows, right? But one of the deer I was targeting, another young guy killed it just a couple days ago, and it was a dandy. So congrats to that dude. So it kind of actually helps me because we had a few good deer in the area that we were talking to one another in, and trying to figure out the pattern of these pretty mature bucks out there. And he was able to capitalize on one of them. So he's done. Now that helps me kind of zero in on a more core area for the other one that we were spotting out there. So I'm gonna try and get out there and get after this deer. He's a smoker. And then another property I hunt on the northeast side of town here. I can't have trail cameras out there, so that kind of puts a grind in the gear when you got work, family balance and stuff. You got to put a lot of glass time out there. I'm not a 22-year-old with not a lot of responsibility anymore, right? So I'm going to focus in the area where I do have cameras and I'm able to pattern something together, and hopefully I can make that happen before, here in the next couple of weeks when these deer start going crazy. I'll start hunting that other farm and get in those pinch points and on the funnels and see what crews do there because there's definitely big deer on that property. I've seen deer that push that 200 level, but I'm just excited to have a hunting season where I get to kind of hunt, man. I know you saw it the other week. My daughter got her first buck.
Yeah. Congratulations again. That was awesome. So that just I bet you that was even just icing on the cake as far as, the overall year. I mean, to be able to have your daughter and harvest her first deer, I mean, that probably says a lot.
Dude, it was so awesome. For those of you that have kids out there, boys and girls, and you're getting them involved in hunting, boys and girls are very different as far as what I've experienced so far. Boys were, triumphant. They realized, hey, I killed an animal, but I overcame the game that I was after. Heck yeah, the girl, my daughter Olivia, whew, man, there was the action of, I want to start a all girl um, hunting show on YouTube with, she goes to school with Mike Reed from Midwest Whitetail, his daughter Bella. They're in the same class. And so they've been talking about starting their girl hunting show and stuff. So she went from that portion and camoing up and getting pumped in music to, we had moments of tears because she goes, what if the buck was married to a doe? I said, no, deer don't get married, baby. And she goes, well, how does the doe have the fawns? And I go, they
Uh,
don't do that. You're trying to get me. You're trying to put me in the box, and I'm not going to let that happen. So we'll talk about that some other time. But that doesn't happen in the deer world. But man, it was super sweet to see her because she was very emotionally in tune to taking a life. And she was excited and proud, but it was a roller coaster with her. And man, I have never in my life experienced such a amazing emotional connection with another person as far as like how many different things I watched and experienced with her just in the couple hours span. So it was an awesome moment, man. I'm super happy and excited about that. And that's I know you're like me. This is why we got into the business because we love the outdoors, we love our farmers, we love hunting, all those things tied together. Why not go out and share the things we love with people that whether they want to sell it because it's time to download it from their family or whatever the case may be, or somebody else looking to start their next step in their journey, right? So man, it's a great feeling overall to be involved in this type of community. And man, what a good year it is so far, man.
yeah, yeah, and we're only 10 days into this thing too. So it's long ways to go. The best is yet to come. Especially with this front. I think everybody's really gearing up for this front coming through here this weekend. So
Now you're a newlywed. Are you going to get to hunt much?
Yeah, well, see, we're a lot less stressful around this house, the Ortmeyer household. So we had to get past the big day, October 7th. I actually got married. So yeah, I'm excited now. Take a lot of the stress off of what we were feeling here last couple of days, and now we're ready to live life. So I'm ready to get in the tree. Still got a few other responsibilities to take care of, but the best time of year is here. It seems like it's taken me a little bit longer each year, just with either work or obviously family things that come up. But it's time to put the excuses aside, and it's time to get in the tree. So I'm really excited. Been shooting, been monitoring trail cameras, and we're ready to get after it. So
Yeah. No, well, I tell you what, wait till the kids come along, man. So do it, do it while you can, because boy, it changes. I mean, your priorities change. You want to go to the sports and the
yep.
dances and be a part, while you can. That's something in my life that I'm so grateful to have now. I was active duty military for 20 years, and I missed out on a lot of my family stuff. So they are my priority. So going to football games and dance recitals and all the school events and stuff, like that's my priority. But not very far behind that, I'm definitely in a tree stand, and I'm super excited to be able to do that as best I can. I mean, you don't, a lot of us don't, you don't realize it, but you start deploying and training and stuff in the military, you miss a lot of hunting seasons, a lot of days. You're lucky if you get to hunt 5 or 10 days in the entire year. Don't even include scouting or anything and that type of stuff. So, I'm just at a point where I'm super appreciative of my time right now, and uh, man, yeah, so it goes quick, man. So enjoy it while you're just a newlywed, if
Yeah.
you're allowed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would actually be a pretty good topic. Maybe, we might dive into on another episode, but would really just be, how to make the most out of your hunts, and I think that can go a long ways as far as, there's a lot of different apps that are out there as far as, choosing the right tree stand or, what have you to be able to put, if you only have a limited number of days, obviously we're pretty fortunate as far as, we have very flexible schedules usually, but to some other folks, they only have the weekends, or, they might have a week of vacation or 2 weeks of vacation. And, how do you put all your eggs in one basket in that one week? What are you strategizing? Where are you going to be hunting? What are the different things to be able to make the most out of each hunt? So that might be another topic we might get into later down the road. But no, like I said, we appreciate everyone. Hopefully we'll be bringing you more, updates throughout the real estate market. Hopefully updates from our team as far as whether that's new listings or hunting stories or what have you. Hopefully we'll bring it to you here on a weekly occurrence. So, you got anything else for us, Chris?
Nope, glad to be a part of this. I think this is a great idea, Colin, to help our clients and future clients kind of know how in our regions in the state of Iowa, how the market's going, and actually in north central Missouri now too. We got Tristan now in that area too. So to kind of keep people up to date, there's national real estate podcasts and stuff that are out there that talk about stuff. There's a couple other that talk in other states, but there really isn't one in Iowa that I'm aware of. I mean, I know there is a couple guys that do some stuff, but it's typically either auction focused or just ag. But that's what's unique about Terra is we are purely real estate. We do normal listings and auctions, agriculture ground and recreational ground. So we are all encompassing transitional land, right? We are all encompassing for the real estate aspect of it. So we're kind of unique in how our perspective is when dealing with with land and ag dwelling types properties, rural properties. So try to stay away from residential as best I can.
I've dabbled into a little bit, and yeah, it's definitely a little bit different part of real estate. But like I said, we're out there to help our clients any way we can, whether that's a new acreage or a first time home buyer. We obviously we do specialize more in land and farmland and recreational properties. But any people that we meet down the way, we're happy to help them any way that we can. So.
Absolutely, yeah.